The date is June 19th, 1944, and the Finns have been pushed back by the Soviet offensive. Our unit has been sent to the Karelian front to help prevent the Finnish line from collapsing. However, the rest of our unit still needs to be brought in by transport ship. Our mission is to provide cover for the convoy as they approach the coast and eliminate any Soviet forces. We will stay on station until being relieved by a pair of Finnish Me-109s. Welcome back to Combat Radius. Today we are in the FW-190 A-6 in the Finnish campaign, or at least the first Finnish campaign. I believe there are 2 or 3 of them. The name of the campaign is in German, so I'm not going to attempt to pronounce it, but I will leave it here on the screen if anyone wants to take a crack at it, and I will also leave it down in the description below. So, the FW-190 is a very, very fun aircraft. When I first started in IL-2, this was probably one of the first few German aircraft I learned to fly. Just the cockpit of this thing compared to anything else in the time period just feels like a Ferrari. And we're gonna get off the ground here, lift off. She is a little bit on the heavier side, especially compared to the 109, so it's not as bad as the P-51 or the P-47, but she does have a little bit of, chunk to her. Compared to other aircraft of the time period, nearly everything in the FW-190 is either automated or super, super pilot friendly. The mixture, the prop pitch is all automated. You don't have to worry about that. So if you're new to IL-2, I highly recommend this aircraft. We are on the way to the target area at an altitude of 3,500 feet, meters, 3,500 meters. And we have our wingman here with us today. We only have a flight of 2, so I'm hoping we don't run into too large of an enemy force. We'll be heading down to the coastline to escort some transport ships that will be bringing in more German units into the area. I believe they're carrying supplies for the ground attack squadron. But anyway, the FW-190 here is just a fantastic plane. Like, look at this cockpit. If you compare this to any of the Russian aircraft, it feels like everything in here is space-age technology. You have gauges that tell you how much you're trimmed out. You have gauges that tell you how much ammunition you have in each of the guns. You can see that just to the low left of the gun sight. So overall, just a really solid aircraft. But compared to a lot of the American planes, like the P-51, F-51, or some of the jets we've been flying at IL-2 Korea, this thing is super claustrophobic. If any of you guys are playing in VR, you know exactly what I mean. Like, I'm a pretty big guy, so I can only move my head maybe 1 or 2 inches to the side, like about this far. So that also makes the rear view visibility not the best. You do have this pseudo bubble canopy that's nice, but you can't really see too far behind the armor plate directly to your 6. We're passing the coastline, so we should be pretty close to the friendly convoy. Now, from what I saw in the report, they are hugging the coastline, so hopefully we can see them from here. Although I will say I am not the best at spotting over water. Everything just kind of blends together, so really you can only spot them if you see, what would you call it? Like, oh, there they are. They're right below us. I was really expecting the convoy to be bigger than this. I'm seeing 2 transports and it looks like 1 escort out in the front. Huh. I'm a little worried since it's 1944, we could run into some real spicy aircraft. The A-6 is a little outdated by this point, but, oh, okay, I think I see something down there. We'll start making our turn. I see what looks to be a small flight of bombers and maybe a few escorts above them. I'm a little concerned about those escorts as I don't know what they could be. I think at this part of the war they could have LA-5 FNs or potentially even Yak-3s, so if that's the case, we could be in some trouble. So I think we're going to just stay fast, blow past these fighters, and we're going to go for the bombers first, especially considering how close they are to the convoy already. It's going to be difficult to knock down all of these guys before they can get some of their ordnance off, but we'll give it a shot. So we're going to be coming down here. I see one in front of us here. There's our wingman. And I think those might have been lags. Not quite sure. We'll check those later. But we're coming down onto the bombers now. And oh my god, I am way off. Give it a little bit of rudder. And there we go. Okay. And he dropped his bombs. I've definitely been spoiled by the 50 cals in IL-2 Korea. Going from those back to these 20 millimeters, it definitely takes some getting used to. The muzzle velocity is a lot slower and they drop off a lot quicker. But when they hit, they just absolutely devastate a target. It's not as crazy as the 30 millimeters though. When I'm flying the K4 later trying to shoot something with that, it's like, you know, throwing a rock at the enemy plane. It's just so slow. But that first bomber dropped his bomb, so he's not an issue anymore. We're going to come on to the second one and correct our aim. I'm still going to try and shoot at long range, though. I want to stay well away from those gunners, and look at that bullseye. Man, I think the very first rounds we fired hit him square, so that was a perfect shot. Turning back around here, and there we go, he just went in. So that is splash 2, or maybe splash 1. I'm not sure if the first bomber went in. All I did was see him drop his bombs, but regardless, he's no longer an issue. There's only one bomber left, so we're gonna start diving back down towards this guy. And it looks like my wingman is keeping the other fighters occupied over by the sun, so he's actually doing a pretty good job over there. He's 2v1ing those guys, so... Oh, and it looks like one of the enemy fighters is taking some flak. And maybe he's smoking. Yeah, he might have gotten hit. Alright, anyway, regardless, we'll focus on the bomber here. Ooh, okay, the convoy is shooting off a warning flare. They're starting to panic, so we need to take out this guy right now. There we go, some more hits. Get him a little more, and there we go. Ooh, okay. Something came off there and almost hit us, but... is this guy still going to get his bombs off? He's turning over the target. That's not good. And, no, okay, we're safe. His bombs missed. They were pretty close, though. Kind of spooky. And there are the parachutes. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 parachutes. Okay. Well, that is splash 2, properly. So now that the threat to the convoy has been dealt with, we can handle these fighters and help our wingman here. Now, when these guys passed earlier, I think I saw that they were LAGG-3s, so they shouldn't be too much of a threat. Here's one of them. And yeah, that's a lag. Okay. Oh, and our wingman got one. The 420 millimeters on this thing are just absolutely brutal. At this point of the war, this is considered a very heavy armament, especially when you're shooting at small single-engine fighters like this. Especially these Soviet fighters. If I remember correctly, the LAGG-3 has laminated wood in the wings, and so if you hit those with these German Minigeschoss rounds, those just break apart like they're nothing. Essentially, they're paper. So we'll see if we can climb up into this guy. Now, the FW-190 is interesting as far as maneuverability. Not quite. The turn rate isn't amazing, especially at low speeds, but it does have fantastic roll rate. And I think a lot of people really underestimate how valuable a high roll rate is. Especially in a knife fight, you can stay out of plane with the enemy fighter. And our wingman went for him. We shouldn't have too many problems handling this guy, but we don't want to get complacent. Although we really just have to buy time at this point. We do have a flight of Finnish Me-109s that are going to be taking over our position over the convoy here. So they should be arriving any minute now. He did take a pot shot at my wingman, but it doesn't look like he hit anything. We're going to stay fast here, and he's going to come for us. I'm going to try and go vertical here, actually. He did climb into us, and the lag is very underpowered. Even considering how heavy we are, we should be able to do very well in the vertical fight against him. Although I'm not sure if we can quite get the nose on this circle. At least we are offensive on him now. And, oh, okay, I'm going to let him go in. And I see two more fighters there. I think those are the friendly Finnish 109s. Okay, so they're going to be coming in on the lag now. This lag is really hanging himself and making himself an easy shot. And the flight leader's firing now, and yeah, look at that. I'm seeing good 20mm hits. The wingman's shooting now, and yeah, this guy's toast. Both of them hit him at least with 3 or 4 20mm each. And it looks like he is out of control now. Looks like maybe a piece of his tail came off. I believe that is the last Soviet fighter in the area, so we can start heading home now that the Finnish fighters are here. But before we go home, I think we can have a little bit of fun. Yeah, there we go, he just went in. Like I was saying, I want to see if we can have a little bit of fun here. So I'm looking for the convoy. I didn't think we got too far away from them, so we should be able to see them from here. Not along the coastline here. Maybe they're closer to the bay or farther out to sea. And oh, okay, there they are. Wow, I didn't think we got that far away. But we're gonna come down and we are going to put on a little air show for these guys. Now I'm gonna have to be careful not to hit the water. Especially when it's overcast like this, there's not a lot of shimmer on the water, so it's very hard to gauge your altitude. But we're gonna come real close to them and buzz these guys. I'm sure a commander won't be too happy, but these guys will, I'm sure, appreciate the show. So that was a nice little flyby, but I think we can do one better. So we're gonna climb back up and we're gonna go around for another pass. Now, if any of you guys have ever been to an air show and seen the pilots do these low altitude maneuvers, I don't know what they're thinking. I would never want to do that. It just seems so unnecessarily dangerous. It's not the maneuvers that are necessarily bad, it's the fact that they have to do them so close to the ground. It's just, your margin of error is just so small, and you're essentially taking away your only safety net by being at low altitude. Like this, like we're coming down and oh, that just spooks me coming in real low like this. But we're gonna come up and give them the old razzle dazzle. Try not to red out here. Ugh. There we go. But anyway, I think that's enough for those guys. So I think it's about time that we start heading back to our airfield. We'll land and debrief. Just looking at the map here, and these more modern IL-2 Great Battle maps look so much better than the old ones. I think this map is fairly new, and it came out in the Siege and Liberation DLC expansion, whatever you would like to call it. I know that added the new Odessa campaign as well. So actually, if any of you guys are interested in seeing that, just let me know. I've been debating which campaigns I want to run for IL-2 Great Battles, so I do have all the campaigns, and I think there's a total of maybe like 30 of them. So just let me know down in the comments section below which aircraft or any particular campaign that you would really be interested in seeing. Although I've only actually played through fully a handful of them. The Hurricane Forest campaign is very, very cool, especially since that one has custom voice lines for the ground controllers. So you go on your mission, you're essentially over the frontline troops, and you have someone on the ground who's directing you to targets. I always thought that one was pretty cool. The Odessa campaign is also new. I've done a few missions in that one, and that one seems pretty interesting, but maybe not to the flair of the Hurricane Forest campaign. I also thought some of the older IL-2 ones might be interesting, like the, I believe, Ice Ring. Regardless, just let me know what campaigns or aircraft you would like to see, and whichever ones end up being the most popular, I will be sure to do those first. Of course, we will also be doing IL-2 Korea as well, so I'll try and make a balance between the two so nothing gets too stale. Anyway, we are approaching the airfield here, so I'm going to drop my flaps down to the takeoff position. Actually, I did mention earlier that in the FW-190, the flaps are very convenient because you just have 3 buttons on the left side here. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. You can see it's in the yellow position, which is takeoff. But I know in IL-2 Korea, you typically drop your flaps by 20 degrees as you're coming in on your downwind. I'm not too sure what you do with the FW-190, but I'm sure it can't hurt. Once we start getting onto our approach here, we'll drop the flaps fully and drop our gear. But we'll start making our turn. I think we're far enough away. Looking at the airfield here, I'm a little concerned because it seems to be just a field. That might have worked when we were flying the Albatross, but this might be a little trickier for such a heavy aircraft like this. But especially since those trees go right up to the end of the runway. And because this is such a heavy plane, it drops just like the P-47. So once we start getting close to our landing speed, we're going to have that nose really high up, and this thing's just going to drop like a brick through the air. And it just feels like every time you're touching the ground, it feels like you're going to break something. But I think it will be mostly okay. Oh, sorry, I tapped something on my desk there. And we got our wingman coming in above us. You can see the indicator for our landing gear is up. That's what that little red stick is on the wing root. And oh, we are getting a little close to the trees. I want to give it a little more power. Yeah, like this is just so spooky. I'm not liking this. And now we have very little space left, so we're just going to have to plop it down like we're doing a carrier landing. Oh, actually, this doesn't seem too bad. I think we're going to get a nice 3-point landing. She'll come down, and there we go. Okay, that was much better than I was expecting it to be. And just like when we were taking off, we're going to pull back on the stick to lock the tail wheel to keep her from swinging around. And because this is a prop plane, unlike the jets in IL-2 Korea, the torque of the engine will cause it to spin, so you got to be much more careful. We'll open the canopy and stick our head out. Actually, first, before we do that, I think we'll turn off the engine so we don't make ourselves deaf. And look at that, just such a beautiful plane. But regardless, anyway, I hope everyone had a fantastic time today, and I hope to see you in the next sortie. Signing off.